Welcome to What to Read Wednesdays. My name is Emily, and I work here at the Carroll County Public Library North Carroll branch. Today, I'm excited to share with you one of my favorite authors, Agatha Christie. Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller was the daughter of an American father and a British mother, and she was born in the United Kingdom in 1890. Agatha is widely acknowledged as the queen of detective fiction and the murder mystery, and her total output reached 93 books and 17 plays. Like most writers, Christie drew heavily on her own experiences. During both of the World Wars, she worked as a nurse in hospital dispensaries, and it was from this that she gained a knowledge of pharmacology and the toxicity of substances. Her novels, as a result, are filled with medical personnel and poisons. In 1914, she married Colonel Archibald Christie, and this caused a bit of mystery in her own life, in that in December of 1926, she suffered a nervous breakdown and then disappeared from her home. 10 days later, police found her in a hotel where she had been staying the entire time, registered under the name of a woman her husband had been having an affair with. She claimed to have amnesia, and the case wasn't pursued further. Christie's second husband was archaeologist Max Mallowan, and for many years she accompanied him on digs in the Middle East, which helped to develop an interest in archaeology for her that she was able to use in some of her books, including Murder in Mesopotamia and Death on the Nile. In 1920, Agatha Christie published her first book, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. And this book introduces one of her two famous detectives, Poirot, and his assistant, Captain Hastings. In this particular title, Poirot goes to visit a wealthy benefactress who ends up being poisoned, and he has to sift through some of the various suspects, including her stepsons, her husband, and also possibly even a poison specialist who just happens to be visiting the town from London. As I mentioned, his assistant, Captain Hastings, is also a character in this book, and he turns up in several of the other titles in this series. He's kind of like the Watson to Sherlock Holmes, I guess you could say. Poirot himself is a bit eccentric and kind of considers himself self-important, but he is also a very likable character as well. Another famous title from this series is The Murder of Roger Aykroyd. Now, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I will say that this book has a very shocking plot twist, and it's brought on a great deal of controversy over the ethics of the mystery writer. It was considered to be the most outrageous of surprise solutions in a mystery novel. Now, while The Murder of Roger Aykroyd comes as a close second, my favorite book from this series is The Murder on the Lynx. In addition to the Poirot series, which is probably the most popular, Agatha Christie also had a second really famous detective series, and that is the Miss Marple series. This series is based off of Miss Jane Marple, complete opposite character from Poirot. She's definitely more of a frail, elderly lady living alone as a spinster in her own village, and definitely the least person that you would expect to be solving mysteries. But the neat thing about Miss Marple is that she solves mysteries based off of what she's observed from human nature, and she relates things that she's have happened in her everyday experience to crimes that she ends up solving. The first book in this series is actually my favorite so far. It's The Murder at the Vicarage, told from the perspective of the vicar, who finds one of the very wealthy and well-known village characters has been murdered inside of his house. Most of the books in these series are narrated from the perspective of someone involved in the mystery itself, one of the characters from the surrounding area. Agatha Christie also has another small series, the Tommy and Tuppence series, that is actually the one that I started reading when I first discovered Agatha Christie. I think this one's a little bit less well known, but definitely worth the read, and I really wish there had been more written in the series for sure. The first book that Christie wrote in this series is The Secret Adversary, and it follows the lives of Tommy and Tuppence, who are two good friends, and they act as amateur detectives. The description for this first book reads, Tommy and Tuppence, two people flat broke and out of work, are restless for excitement. They embark on a daring business scheme, young adventurers, willing to do anything, go anywhere. But their first assignment for the sinister Mr. Whittington draws them into a diabolical political conspiracy. Under the eye of the elusive, ruthless Mr. Brown, they find themselves plunged into more danger than they ever imagined. And I also like the dedication she has at the beginning of this book that states, to all those leading monotonous lives in the hope that they may experience at secondhand the delights and dangers of adventure. And I feel like that really sums up this series well. There are only 5 books in this series. Again, it's a small one, but the neat thing about this particular series that I like is that you can actually see these two friends age and become a couple, and so they're young adventurers by the beginning of the book, and by the last book they're seniors who have lived a full life. This is another book from the series, N or M. This one is the 3rd one in the series, I believe, and it's set during World War II. Agatha Christie also wrote several standalone books, and if I could only recommend one to you, it would definitely be And Then There Were None. This one's just scary and creepy enough to keep you in suspense. It's about 10 strangers who are invited to an abandoned island, and one by one they start dying off. I love how this shares the perspective and thoughts of each of those 10 different characters at various points in time in the book. Definitely has an unexpected ending, so don't read ahead, and I would even highly recommend listening to the audiobook on this one. I love reading Agatha Christie mysteries because they are just classic English detective stories. They have suspense throughout the whole novel, and often very unexpected endings, and for that reason I like to recommend that you actually listen to these through audiobook. I think that makes it so much more entertaining and interesting, and for me it's a good way to keep from looking ahead and peeking to see what the ending is going to be. CCPL has tons of Agatha Christie mysteries available through ebook, audiobook, and print copies as well, so I just highly encourage you to check them out. Thanks for joining me for What to Read Wednesdays. Be sure to join us again in 2 weeks for some more great reading.